Across the stars, one principle had united spacefaring civilizations for millennia. Medical personnel were sacrosanct. Even the most ruthless species respected the universal symbol, a red cross against white, that had somehow transcended planetary boundaries to become galactic law. All except one. Captain James Miller watched the blood-spattered footage for the third time, his face hardening with each viewing. The recording showed Earth medics, clearly marked with red crosses, rushing to aid wounded civilians on Colony Outpost, Delta. Without warning, Voth warships had descended through the atmosphere, opening fire indiscriminately. "Play it again," Miller ordered, his voice like granite. Lieutenant Davis tapped the console reluctantly. "Sir, every fleet commander has viewed this footage already." The holographic display flickered, showing medic Anna Taylor kneeling beside an injured colonist. Her white uniform with its prominent red cross gleamed in the sunlight. Then came the flash of Voth energy weapons. Anna's body jerked as she fell forward, still trying to shield her patient. Miller closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, the cold fury there made Davis step back involuntarily. "The Voth knew exactly what they were doing," Miller said. "That was a deliberate targeting of medical personnel. 17 medics killed, 32 injured colonists executed while receiving treatment." Admiral Patel's hologram appeared above the command table. Her normally composed features were tight with controlled anger. "Captain Miller, I'm authorizing Protocol Hippocrates." Davis inhaled sharply. Protocol Hippocrates had been established after humanity joined the Galactic Council, a contingency so extreme it had never been implemented. It stipulated that any attack on medical personnel would trigger an immediate and overwhelming military response, not retaliation, not justice, a lesson. "All Earth vessels have received the authorization," Patel continued. "The Council has been notified. They've withdrawn objections." Miller nodded grimly. The Galactic Council, typically cautious about military interventions, had viewed the evidence and made an unprecedented decision. They would not interfere with Earth's response. "Understood, Admiral. The Mercy stands ready." The irony wasn't lost on anyone that Earth's most powerful warship bore such a name. The Mercy had been designed for humanitarian missions, but carried defensive capabilities that most species couldn't comprehend. Humanity had learned hard lessons about maintaining peace through strength. Miller turned to his communications officer. "Broadcast on all frequencies, all languages. Message begins. This is Captain James Miller of the Earth vessel Mercy. The Voth Empire has violated the Universal Medical Neutrality Accord. Protocol Hippocrates is now in effect. All non-Voth vessels are advised to maintain distance from Voth military installations. We will strike in exactly 1 hour. Message ends." Throughout the galaxy, the broadcast rippled outward. Species that had known humans as diplomats, traders, and healers watched in uneasy fascination. They had seen humanity's compassion. They were about to witness its wrath. In the Voth Command Center, Supreme Commander Drex dismissed the warning with contempt. "Humans are weak. They prioritize saving the damaged rather than culling them. Their threats are as empty as their philosophy." His deputy cleared his throat nervously. "Supreme Commander, our intelligence suggests their response may be disproportionate." "To what? Eliminating their medics? The strong prevail, the weak perish. This is universal law," Drex said dismissively. On the Mercy, Miller gave the order to jump. The massive vessel, along with 47 other Earth ships, vanished into fold space, leaving behind a momentary distortion in the fabric of reality. The galaxy held its breath. The Voth homeworld of Kresh hung like a jewel in space, protected by orbital defense platforms that had repelled invaders for centuries. Around the main military shipyard, 73 Voth battlecruisers formed a defensive perimeter that would have given pause to any conventional force. They were not facing a conventional force. The Mercy emerged from fold space just outside weapons range, followed by its battle group. Aboard the flagship, Miller stood with hands clasped behind his back. "Open a channel," he ordered. His communications officer nodded. Channel open, sir. Supreme Commander Drex, this is Captain Miller. You have violated galactic law by targeting medical personnel. By authority of Earth Command and with the acknowledgement of the Galactic Council, we are implementing Protocol Hippocrates. On the Voth command ship, Drex laughed. Your vessel is called Mercy? How appropriate that you come to beg for it. Miller's expression didn't change. We're not here for mercy, Commander. We're here to give a lesson in human history. He paused. Specifically, why every species that has ever harmed our healers has come to regret it. Drex sneered. Your fleet is outnumbered. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Your courage is admirable but misplaced. This isn't about courage, Miller replied quietly. This is about consequence. He nodded to his tactical officer who pressed a sequence on her console. Throughout the Voth fleet, alarms suddenly blared. Shield generators faltered as microscopic drones, deployed weeks earlier by routine Earth medical ships, activated inside their systems. These nanomachines, disguised as standard medical equipment, had passed through Voth security undetected. Drex's confident expression collapsed into confusion as reports flooded in. What is happening? How did they? Lieutenant Davis, execute strike pattern Nightingale, Miller commanded. Earth ships surged forward, their weapons targeting not the Voth vessel's command centers or weapon systems, but their medical bays. With surgical precision, Earth forces destroyed every medical facility in the Voth fleet. No personnel were targeted. No life support systems were damaged. But within 17 minutes, the entire Voth armada had lost all ability to treat injuries or illness. Strike complete, Captain, Davis reported. All medical facilities neutralized. Miller opened the channel again. Supreme Commander Drex. Your fleet now has exactly what you gave our colonists. No medical support. No ability to save your wounded. Drex's voice shook with rage. This is meaningless. You've accomplished nothing. Phase 1 is complete. Miller corrected him. Begin Phase 2. Earth ships deployed specialized buoys around the Voth homeworld. These devices activated a quantum field that selectively targeted Voth communication systems. Within minutes, the planet's military bases could no longer coordinate. On Kresh, hospitals suddenly found themselves receiving emergency supplies, advanced medical equipment, and protective shields that the Voth military couldn't penetrate. Earth had surrounded their medical facilities with protective technology while isolating their military command. What are you doing? Drex demanded, his voice now tinged with uncertainty. Showing you what humanity values, Miller answered simply, and demonstrating what we're capable of when those values are violated. Throughout Voth territory, their military communications network collapsed as Earth forces methodically isolated each installation. Meanwhile, medical facilities received unexpected upgrades and protection. It was a bloodless dismantling of the Voth Empire's power structure through elegant technological precision. On the bridge of the Mercy, Lieutenant Davis observed the unfolding operation with a mixture of awe and discomfort. Sir, he said quietly to Miller, the Voth aren't fighting back. They can't, Miller replied, studying tactical displays. Our medical ships have been visiting their territories for years, ostensibly providing humanitarian aid. Each visit planted dormant systems designed specifically for this contingency. But sir, this feels almost cruel. Miller turned to face his lieutenant. What's cruel, Davis? Is shooting medics who are trying to save lives. This response was calculated to minimize casualties while delivering an unmistakable message. Across the view screen, Voth warships drifted in disarray, their crews increasingly desperate as systems continued to fail in cascading sequences. Admiral Patel's hologram appeared on the bridge. Captain, the Galactic Council is monitoring our operation. Several member species have expressed concern about the extent of our response. The Council approved Protocol Hippocrates, Miller replied. They approved the principle, not necessarily our implementation, Patel corrected. We're walking a fine line here. With respect, Admiral, this is exactly what Protocol Hippocrates was designed for. a non-lethal but overwhelming demonstration that targeting medical personnel carries unacceptable consequences. On Kresh, something unexpected was happening. Voth civilians, emboldened by the sudden protection of their hospitals and the apparent paralysis of their military leadership, had taken to the streets. Reports indicated growing civil unrest as ordinary Voth questioned the decisions that had brought Earth's wrath upon them. Supreme Commander Drex was facing mutiny. His officers, unable to coordinate between ships or with ground forces, were demanding, "He negotiate with the humans." "Never!" he roared. "Deploy the pulse weapons." His second-in-command stepped forward nervously. "Supreme Commander, the pulse weapons would damage our own medical facilities. The humans have somehow linked their protective systems to our hospital networks." Drex seized him by the throat. "Then we sacrifice the weak. Launch the attack." The officer struggled free. "No, Commander, this has gone too far." On 3 Voth destroyers, commanders made independent decisions to attempt attacks on Earth vessels. Their weapons powered up, targeting systems locked. Miller watched calmly. They're about to discover Phase 3. The moment the Voth ships fired, their weapons turned inward, energy discharges flowing back through their own systems. The destroyers went dark, life support systems barely functioning. "Tactical status of those vessels?" Miller inquired. "Weapons and propulsion disabled, sir. Life support operating at minimal levels. Their medical emergency systems are activating, but..." The tactical officer paused. "They have no medical facilities to respond." Miller opened a channel. "Supreme, Commander Drex, your ships are disabled but salvageable. Your wounded need treatment. I suggest you reconsider your position." Across Voth territory, military installations continued to lose capability, while hospitals gained unprecedented protection. It was becoming clear to every Voth citizen what Earth valued, and what they were capable of when those values were violated. In the Galactic Council chambers, representatives watched with a mixture of horror and grudging respect. Humanity, known throughout the galaxy as healers and diplomats, had revealed the steel beneath their compassion. By the 3rd day of what was being called the Medic's Response, the Voth Empire was in chaos. Not from destruction, but from systemic paralysis. Their military communication remained severed, their weapons systems compromised, while their medical infrastructure operated with unprecedented efficiency under Earth's protection. On the Mercy, Miller received a priority communication from Earth Command. "Captain," Admiral Patel began, "the Galactic Council is calling for a resolution. Several species are disturbed by our capabilities." Miller nodded. "That was part of the protocol's design, Admiral." "Perhaps," Patel replied carefully. "But we've made our point. The Voth High Council has requested negotiations." Miller raised an eyebrow. "The High Council? Not military command?" "Correct. It seems Supreme Commander Drex has been removed from his position." This was an unexpected development. The Voth military had ruled their society for centuries. If civilian leadership was asserting control, a fundamental shift was occurring within their power structure. "Very well, Admiral. We'll prepare for negotiations." On Kresh, the Voth High Council convened an emergency session. Councillor Torm, speaking for the Medical Guild, addressed the assembly. "For generations, our military has claimed that strength comes through culling the weak. Yet in 3 days, the humans have demonstrated greater strength without firing a lethal shot." Torm gestured to the data displays. "Their technology has surpassed our defenses while simultaneously enhancing our hospitals. They value saving lives above taking them, and have proven this philosophy superior." Across the chamber, Councillor Marek from the Warrior caste objected. "This is temporary. Once they withdraw, they've changed nothing that cannot be reversed." Torm interrupted. "That's the brilliance of their approach. They've given us a choice. The High Council's decision was unanimous. They would negotiate with Earth. The meeting was arranged on neutral ground, a Galactic Council station positioned between Earth and Voth territories. Captain Miller represented Earth, while Councillor Torm led the Voth delegation. "Captain," Torm began, "your demonstration has been instructive. The High Council acknowledges our violation of medical neutrality was unacceptable. Miller studied the Voth counselor carefully. Acknowledgement is only the beginning, counselor. Indeed. We propose immediate reparations to the families of the medics killed by our forces. Furthermore, we request Earth's assistance in reforming our medical protocols. Miller's expression remained neutral. And Supreme Commander Drex has been removed and will stand trial for war crimes under both Voth and Galactic law, Torm replied. Miller nodded slowly. These are positive first steps. However, Protocol Hippocrates requires more than words. Torm bowed his head slightly. We anticipated this. The High Council has prepared a formal treaty recognizing medical neutrality as sacrosanct, with provisions for independent verification and serious consequences for violations. As they negotiated, observers from 27 galactic species watched with intense interest. What many had dismissed as human sentimentality, their seemingly irrational devotion to healing and protecting the vulnerable, had revealed itself as a cornerstone of a civilization powerful enough to cripple an empire without casualties. Lieutenant Davis approached Miller during a recess. Sir, intelligence reports the Voth military is splintering. Some factions are refusing to acknowledge the High Council's authority. Miller nodded. As expected, revolution rarely comes without resistance. Sir? Davis looked confused. Protocol Hippocrates wasn't just about punishment, Lieutenant. It was designed to create exactly this situation, empowering those within enemy societies who value healing over harm. The peace accord that emerged from the negotiations became known as the Florence Protocol, named after an ancient earth healer. Its terms were straightforward but revolutionary. Any attack on medical personnel would be considered a crime against all sentient life, punishable by collective response from signatories. Initially, 15 species signed alongside humans and the newly reformed Voth government. Within a month, that number had grown to 42. On Earth, the public reaction was complex. While many celebrated the bloodless victory, others questioned whether the response had gone too far, whether demonstrating such overwhelming technological superiority might foster fear rather than respect among galactic neighbors. Admiral Patel addressed these concerns in an unprecedented public briefing. For centuries, humanity fought itself. She explained to the assembled journalists. We perfected the art of war against our own kind before reaching the stars. When we joined the galactic community, we made a fundamental choice, to be known, primarily as healers, not warriors. She paused, her expression solemn. But we never forgot how to fight. Protocol Hippocrates wasn't developed in haste after the attack on our medics. It was established decades ago, with careful consideration of both tactical and ethical implications. We built our reputation on saving lives, while quietly ensuring we could protect that mission if necessary. On the Mercy, now stationed near the former Voth Earth border as part of the transition force, Captain Miller received a visitor. Dr. Reed, the chief medical officer, had requested a private meeting. Captain, Reed began once they were alone in Miller's ready room. The medical staff has been discussing recent events. Many of us are uncomfortable with our role in this operation. Miller nodded. Go on. We became doctors to heal, not to be the justification for military action, however bloodless. Reed hesitated. Some feel our oath has been weaponized. Miller considered this carefully. Doctor, what would you have done if you were on that colony when the Voth attacked? I would have tried to save lives, it's what we do. Even enemy lives? Reed didn't hesitate. Of course. That's exactly what Protocol Hippocrates protected, not just our medics, but the principle they embody. Miller gestured toward the viewport, where a Voth hospital ship was visible, now bearing both Voth markings and the Universal Red Cross. Look at what's happening now. The Voth are integrating medical neutrality into their society. Their military now includes medical training as mandatory. Reed wasn't entirely convinced. But we forced this change through technology and power projection. Sometimes the galaxy needs to be reminded that humanity's compassion isn't weakness, Miller replied quietly. that our desire to heal doesn't mean we can't defend our values. Across Voth territory, the changes were indeed dramatic. Military vessels now carried expanded medical facilities. Training academies taught medical ethics alongside tactical doctrine. The philosophy that had dismissed caring for the injured as preserving weakness was being systematically dismantled. Not all Voth accepted these changes. On 3 colony worlds, military hardliners attempted to seize control, declaring the new government illegitimate. They broadcast their intent to restore the natural order, where strength alone determined worth. Before Earth forces could respond, something unexpected happened. Voth civilian ships surrounded the rebel military vessels. These were hospital ships, research vessels, and passenger transports, all broadcasting the same message: we stand with the healers. 6 months after the implementation of Protocol Hippocrates, Captain Miller attended a ceremony on the Galactic Council Central Station. The vast chamber was filled with representatives from over 100 species, many of whom had historically been wary of one another. At the center of the chamber stood a monument, a simple red cross crafted from materials donated by each signatory world. Beneath it, an inscription in multiple languages read, "To heal any is to benefit all." The Voth High Counselor Torm approached Miller before the ceremony began. "Captain," he said with a formal bow, "I bring news you may find interesting. Our archaeologists have uncovered records suggesting that thousands of years ago, Voth society revered healers. Medical practitioners were considered sacred, untouchable in conflict." Miller raised an eyebrow. What changed? A series of devastating wars led a military faction to seize power. They rewrote our history, our values. Torm's expression was somber. "In 6 days, your Protocol Hippocrates accomplished what some of us had been working toward for generations: the restoration of our true heritage." Around them, former enemies engaged in diplomatic conversation. Species that had fought bitter wars now discussed collaborative medical research initiatives. The Florence Protocol had expanded beyond its original purpose, becoming a foundation for broader cooperation. Admiral Patel joined them, nodding respectfully to Torm. "High Counselor, your medical exchange program has been approved by Earth Command. We'll be sending 50 of our best doctors to train with Voth medical specialists." Torm's eyes widened slightly. "You would trust us with your healers so soon?" "Trust must begin somewhere," Patel replied, "and we believe in the path your people have chosen." As the ceremony commenced, speakers from various worlds shared stories of how medical neutrality had been honored in their histories, and sometimes violated, with terrible consequences. When it was Earth's turn, Admiral Patel stepped forward. "Humanity's journey to the stars began with a paradox," she said. "Our greatest scientific advancements often emerged from our conflicts, yet our proudest moments came when we transcended the impulse to destroy in favor of the commitment to heal." She gestured toward the assembled delegates. Protocol Hippocrates was never intended simply as punishment. It was designed as transformation, to demonstrate that protecting those who heal is not idealism, but the most practical form of wisdom. A society that values healers values its own future. Later, as the diplomatic reception continued, Lieutenant Davis found Miller observing the interactions from a quiet corner. "Quite a change from 6 months ago," Davis remarked. Miller nodded. "The galaxy needed a reminder of something we learned painfully on Earth, that the strength to destroy is common. The strength to heal is rare and must be protected at all costs." "Still," Davis said quietly, "not everyone is comfortable with how quickly we deployed such advanced technology. Some of our allies are asking what else we might be capable of." "Good," Miller replied. "That uncertainty is valuable. The species that targeted our medics thought they understood humanity, thought our compassion was our limitation. They didn't realize it's our foundation." Across the reception hall, medical personnel from 20 species collaborated on a demonstration of emergency response techniques. Among them were Voth doctors working alongside human medics, former enemies now united in purpose. The message was clear throughout galactic civilization. Humanity would share its knowledge, extend its compassion, and offer healing to all who needed it. But those who mistook this generosity for weakness would discover the steel beneath the silk, swiftly, decisively, and without mercy. 1 year to the day after the attack on Colony Outpost Delta, a memorial service was held for the 17 medics who had lost their lives. The ceremony took place not on Earth, as tradition would have dictated, but on the colony itself, now rebuilt and expanded with contributions from 43 species, including the Voth. Captain Miller, recently promoted to admiral, stood before the assembled crowd. Behind him rose a simple monument, 17 white pillars surrounding a red cross that glowed softly in the evening light. "We gather not only to remember those we lost," Miller began, "but to recognize what their sacrifice has created." He gestured toward the diverse gathering. Representatives from across the galaxy had come to pay respects, many from species that had historically been adversaries. 1 year ago, an act of violence against those who heal revealed something important, not just about humanity, but about life throughout our galaxy. When we defended our medics with overwhelming force but without taking lives, we demonstrated a truth that resonates across species and cultures. The strength to heal always surpasses the power to harm. Among the attendees stood former Supreme Commander Drex, now stripped of military rank. His presence had been controversial, but the families of the fallen medics had insisted on it. After being convicted of war crimes, Drex had requested an unusual sentence to serve by providing medical aid on frontier worlds under the supervision of human doctors. Dr. Anna Taylor's parents approached Drex after the ceremony. Their daughter had been the first medic killed in the attack. Taylor's mother held out a small object, Anna's medical insignia pin. "She believed everyone deserved care," Mrs. Taylor said quietly, "even those who might become enemies." Drex accepted the pin with trembling hands. "I did not understand then," he replied, his voice rough with emotion. "I was taught that preserving the wounded was weakness. Now I see it requires greater strength than destroying them." Throughout the rebuilt colony, similar conversations unfolded, former adversaries finding common ground in the shared value of preservation rather than destruction. Earth's response to the attack had demonstrated that advanced civilizations could enforce moral principles without resorting to the very violence they condemned. Admiral Miller found Lieutenant Davis, now Captain Davis of the medical frigate, Florence, observing the gathering from a quiet vantage point. "Having second thoughts about your transfer to medical command?" Miller asked. Davis shook his head. "The opposite, sir. After witnessing Protocol Hippocrates, I realized I wanted to be part of what we were protecting, not just the protection itself." Miller nodded in understanding. Throughout Earth's fleet, a similar shift had occurred. Applications to medical and healing professions had increased dramatically. The demonstration of humanity's resolve to defend its healers had paradoxically inspired more to become healers themselves. As night fell on the colony, the memorial's red cross illuminated the gathering. Its light was joined by thousands of smaller lights as attendees activated personal luminary drones that rose slowly into the atmosphere, forming a vast red cross in the sky above. From orbit, the symbol would be visible across half the continent. A reminder to all who saw it that some principles transcend species, politics, and even the vast gulfs between stars. In the years since Protocol Hippocrates had been implemented, not a single medic had been targeted in any conflict throughout Council space. The lesson had been learned and embedded in galactic consciousness. They shot at our medics. Earth struck back instantly, and the galaxy became better for it. In the soft light of the memorial, Admiral Miller recited the words now inscribed on medical vessels throughout known space, human and alien alike. "To those who heal, we stand as your shield. To those who would harm them, we are your consequence. This is not a threat but a promise. This is not policy but principle. This is humanity."